And welcome to the Steelers Depot live stream here on this Monday, January 9th. As always, I am Alex Kozora. Alongside me is Bryan here to have our first stream of both 2023 and the Pittsburgh Steelers offseason. Those things unfortunately coinciding at the same time. Pittsburgh beating the Browns 28-14 on Sunday to move to 9-8 on the year, but did not get the help they needed. Miami beating the Jets, and so Pittsburgh staying home this regular season. Let me go ahead and pull up the actual site here. And as always, joining me is Bryan. Dave, how you doing?
Doing good. We're right into the off season, aren't we?
No stopping.
Switch gears, right?
Ain't that the truth? Just it is kind of crazy to think about. Just about 24 hours ago, we're talking about can this team make that playoff push? Can they get the help they needed? It came close, but close not good enough. So starting just a little bit earlier. Usually we're 7 p.m., but with some things going on, Dave and I thought it'd be best to start a bit earlier. Still going a full hour till 7:45 p.m. Eastern time. So be sure to get your questions in.
National championship game tonight too.
Ooh, who you picking, TCU or Georgia?
Oh, Georgia should go all over them, I would think.
You think? But hey, TCU scrappy.
Yeah, they are. Hopefully, hopefully it's a close game. But really, I'm more of a, if there's one team that I kind of gravitated to as being kind of my team, so to speak, it's probably Georgia. Because growing up where I grew up in Northwest Florida, it's Alabama, it's Auburn, it's Florida State, and just got Georgia kind of was the team that you didn't really hear too much about in my area, and I got a couple of friends that are big Georgia fans, so I've kind of gravitated over the years to kind of Georgia being, I guess, quote unquote, my college team, if you will.
Yeah, really good program. I forgot to do our stream,
test.
Our testing here. I assume you guys could hear us. Otherwise, I would have gotten some comments that you could not hear us. But Chad, if you could just let me know if you can hear Dave and myself, if everything sounds okay. That would help us out. And then we can officially start here answering your Steelers questions as this offseason begins. So Mike Adesso says it sounds good. And so we will take Mike's word for it. And we will start things off with a super chat. And reminder, just like Mutated Genome did, $10 super chat. You guys can send us one and move to the front of the line and have a guarantee of your question being asked and answered as soon as possible by Dave and myself. So Mutated Genome says, Alex and Dave, thank you for the excellent year-round Steelers coverage and analysis. The Steelers may disappoint, but you two and the rest of Steelers Depot does not. Thank you so much, MJ. You've been here for so many of these streams, and appreciate you always hanging out with us. This site's possible because of the work of our team, but because of the community that we have that really engages with us, that talks with us, and makes this whole thing possible. So really appreciate that.
Yeah, and we certainly do appreciate it. And you got a great team that we've put together. We've added, I think, 3 full-time people, ahead of this past season, and just everything continues to grow and find work that Alex pretty much runs the site on a day-to-day basis now. So he's sort of like, I guess, the general manager of it all, and just doing a fantastic job. So thanks for all the support.
And hopefully some more exciting additions to tell you guys about in the future. Mike Adesso says, by the way, TCU receiver Johnson is a Martavis Bryant clone. Keep an eye on him tonight. Hopefully that's a clone on the field. I trust that it is. Let's see. CMAC, the purpose, this is a new one. The purpose of YouTube channels are to be on video, not inside private basement bunkers with blacked out night vision. What's the point? Just Spotify. I'm sorry if you're unhappy with the stream, CMAC. If you're referring to the Steelers logo being up there a moment ago and not the site, that was just for some logistical stuff. But, I mean, that's what we're doing right now. Maybe there'll be some face cams in the future, but just kind of what we have to work with. So hopefully
if you don't. Nobody's forcing anybody to stay here. That's for sure.
The goal is just to answer the questions, and you don't always have to see us to do that. But it's totally your call, and we appreciate you being here. All right, we'll start things off here with Bryan Jonker. Says our defense is very precarious. We have 3 great talents and a bunch of mediocrity. Lose one of them, and there is a whole position group to be exploited. Agree, disagree? I get that. You certainly felt that when you lost T.J. Watt in Week 1, but I'm sure that's true for a lot of teams. You can't have stars at every single position, and you lose one of your top guys you count on to kind of anchor and build around your defense, both in how you work and how offenses respond to you. I imagine any team that loses one of their top guys is gonna feel that. So it's hard to judge, and it's probably a little insular just because we're so focused on Pittsburgh.
Yeah, look, I mean, there's no doubt that the loss of T.J. Watt early in the season was a big deal, and to some degree, not having Demonte Casey early on in the season, I think the Steelers probably had decent plans for him coming out of preseason there, and obviously it took a while to get him back on the field as well too. So knock on wood, this team stayed relatively healthy. Outside of that, now other than that, how'd you enjoy the play, Mrs. Lincoln? Lose a guy like T.J. Watt, that was
Hmm.
super significant there. But as Alex and I talked about on the podcast earlier today, man, take a good look at what happened with that offensive line this past year. And because it might be 5 or 6 or 7 more years before I might not ever see anything like that again in Pittsburgh. With all 5 of those guys starting all 17 games, and 3 of those guys played every single snap. One of them, Chikwama Okorafor, I think played all but 1 or 2. You're just not going to see that kind of thing there. So it's unfortunate they didn't have T.J. Watt, but obviously when your best player on that side of football goes down, it's tough to overcome. And you'd have to think that if they did have him for all those games that he was out, maybe that's enough to turn one of those into a W. And if that's the case, maybe this team's getting ready for the playoffs right now.
Sure. So often we talked about this on the podcast briefly earlier today, Dave, you and I, that, health is sometimes that overlooked aspect of teams, the defining line between teams that succeed, the teams that don't. You look at, what happened with Miami and Baltimore, their quarterback situations, and just in general, typically the teams that are among the worst in football are the teams that are the most snake bitten by injuries. The teams that are typically the best are ones that stay healthy. Pittsburgh stayed healthy. The O-line probably they were healthy to play. They played hurt a lot. Mason Cole was never healthy this entire year. It felt like I think Okorafor had probably a shoulder he was dealing with. It was constantly, I think, bugging him in game. But this group played and they certainly grew, and that was encouraging.
Yeah, it was. Cole ended up being a pretty decent ad.
Yeah.
And man, if he can stay healthy and maybe they'll be able to avoid adjusting that center position at least early in the draft this year.
Right, I think so. Got a slew of super chats that just came in, so thank you guys so much. I'll read them off here. Connor V, $10 super chat. Appreciate the coverage all year. He says, excuse me. What's wild about Steelers Depot is that the offseason coverage is just as professional and thorough as the regular season. Top class site. Appreciate y'all. Thank you, Connor. Yeah, we, as Dave said, flipped that switch immediately. Just from yesterday talking about the game and today talking about offseason draft, free agency, coaching, changes, Tomlin's presser, all that year-end type stuff. And so the news cycle, the NFL has figured out to make this thing never stop, and they do a very good job at that.
Yeah, Connor, look, just before Alex and I got on, we just talking about what, the things that we're working on. I've got my free agency primer, articles coming. Last night I dumped the quick overview in, the listing, the restricted, the unrestricted, and exclusive rights free agents, just to get people, able to see the names and thinking about it. Hopefully within this next week, I'm going to have prime, more drilled down on detail primers about first I think the exclusive, then the restricted, and then the unrestricted there, to shed a little bit more light of which way I think it's going to go with all these players. Then my salary cap update, my first salary cap update should be along here fairly soon. Alex has got a nice little thing that he did, I think, with some awards, the yearly awards that he kind of polls the people on the site. And as we mentioned, we've added so many full-time people to the site. I mean, it just, all it is really like flipping a switch for us right now this time of year. And then I think even Alex has talked about maybe the draft profiles will start next week, and if they don't start next week, it'll be the Monday after, and we hope to do about 250 of those this year.
Yeah, so much content. So I know the season ended, but the content certainly hasn't on Steelers Depot. We will be doing our now, I think, second annual Steelers Depot Award. So take that, Grammys. We got the Steelers Depot Awards for you guys. And thank you, Connor, again for the kind words and the super chat. Another $20 super chat from our friend Double HH, who says, which potential coaching change will create more chaos ripples throughout the NFL for players leaving or being traded? Sean McVay or Sean Payton? So which Sean coaching change or potential coaching change will create more chaos? Probably Payton, just because there's a trade aspect to it, and he's kind of got a coaching staff in place. I don't think it's going to create chaos. It's just going to be a coaching hire that's a bit atypical. Coaches have been traded before, and Parcells and Belichick and Gruden and Shula, so it's not unprecedented. But just the return of Sean Payton to coaching, although McVay seemingly kind of just leaving the Rams that are a mess, is an interesting scenario.
Yeah, nothing's really gone forward with either one of those two, right? Just McVay's thinking about maybe stepping away. That's where we've left off on this. And then Peyton, last I heard, he's, I guess the Broncos are courting him, right?
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, Dave. I don't know if you can do anything to maybe.
Oh, you know why? I've probably got the
thing on. Yeah, so go ahead and fix that, and then we'll test that. Yeah,
it should be better there.
Okay, I think you're better now. Yeah, McVay is not officially walked away, but the reports, all the prevailing wisdom is believing that he will, and that Peyton will end up somewhere, almost certainly Denver. We'll see, but that's the thought right now.
Okay. It'd be interesting to see if either one of those play out the way they're kind of, I guess, trending right now.
Yeah, we shall see, but it'll be interesting to see what decisions get made and where everybody lands. $5 super chat from Ryan Riffle, who says, "Thank you for coming back, Dave. Started listening to you in high school. I'm 27 now. Couldn't imagine a Steelers season without you." So that one's to make you feel old, but we are certainly glad you're back, Dave.
Yeah, look, we're all day to day, right? Well, I'm day to day and year to year right now, kind of, with my health and all. And I've obviously done this since 2008, and try to, we as this staff continues to grow, I'm going to try to pull back a little bit here and there. And Alex pretty much runs the operation now, so help out where I can and not getting anybody's way at this point. And I still like talking to, doing these chats and doing the podcast and writing, about salary cap and all like that. So as long as Alex is able to make it comfortable for me, we'll approach this thing year by year right now. So as of right now, 2023 is in the plans.
And be sure to listen to the podcast today where Dave gives an opening kind of primer on the salary cap. We'll do a more detailed written article in the near future, but some really good content there if you guys want some salary cap info on this team. Another $20 super chat. You guys are just killing it today. Thank you so much. Nick Gooden says, "Thought I would be sad today, but I already found myself excited listening to today's first cap breakdown of the offseason." So, speak of the devil, thanks for all you guys do. Can you see the Steelers drafting a late round third string quarterback again this year? So, Oladokin 2.0.
Oh, I don't know if Alex's heart can take it.
Yeah, I hope not, for my sake. I mean, they bring 4 quarterbacks into camp, so they're gonna add somebody. Rudolph's gonna certainly go. Trubisky could be released. It's only Kenny Pickett assured to be on this team going into training camp next year. So my thought is Pickett, veteran quarterback, be it Trubisky, somebody else, futures contract guy, and probably undrafted. I think it's really hard to justify the draft pick, although depending on the needs and this team having some extra cap space, draft picks. It could happen in Pittsburgh's, penny pinching ways when it comes to the draft. Will that change though with Khan? There's so many variables at play. It's hard to say. I find a draft pick and a quarterback probably more unlikely.
Yeah, I would hope they wouldn't just get an undrafted one, and then you could even probably find one of these other bottom of the barrel guys to kind of compete for a minimum salary, to potentially be your number 3 guy, and we'll obviously see what the team decides to do with Mitch Trubisky or not. Obviously, if you decide to part ways with Mitch Trubisky, you'd probably want a more experienced kind of guy in that role there, but there's going to be a lot of those kind of fringe guys, I would think, out there to be number 3 types, and then your number 4, as Alex said, could be a rookie undrafted free agent. To me, there's no sense in drafting one, even if it is a 7th rounder. Just go out and get an undrafted one at that point.
Right. The problem is, and the reason why they drafted Oladokin was they weren't going to be able to afford to sign him as an undrafted guy. Will the model change under Khan and White? Remember, they weren't running the draft. It was Colbert at the very end of last year, so there's some variables that we don't quite know, but I wouldn't even in principle draft a late round pick on a quarterback. The success rate is extremely low of getting anything out of that guy, and this team has plenty of holes to fill. Mutated Gino, another $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Also, if you guys could like the stream, that would really help us out. Be sure to hit that like button, and it would really boost the visibility of this live stream. Says, Am I the only one who absolutely despises when Pickett rolls out to the right, whether by design or when he bails out of the pocket too soon? So, Dave, I'll let you start with this one. Your thoughts on, I guess, Pickett's pocket movement.
Well, I mean, you do take away half the field when you do that, right?
Sure.
Right off the bat there. But I mean, if you structure it right, if you have kind of a levels concept in there, depending on what you've done up until that point, it's not something that you totally, I don't think, take away from the playbook. But it's another thing too that you don't want to see. At least I don't, want to see 4 or 5 times a game on top of it. Now, I will say this. I mean, we've seen these last couple of games of Kenny Pickett do some stuff out of structure, but why bail? Why create kind of an out of structure, environment, which technically that is you're rolling away out of your pocket in those situations. In today's NFL, you've got the Max Crosbys and the Bosas that are pretty wise to that stuff. So, I mean, do you want to see it 3 or 4 times a game? I don't, but I think if it's used right in certain games, and if you have kind of like a levels concept on top of it there, and you have a mobile quarterback, should something go wrong, I mean, I don't think it should be totally, aborted.
Yeah, there's a risk reward. It depends on what you're talking about, designed or undesigned. Pickett certainly has a tendency to still scramble a bit much, and that's, I think, typical of young quarterbacks who are mobile. It just, we're watching a mobile quarterback in Pittsburgh for the first time in forever, so it's just kind of foreign to us to really see that on a regular basis. Canada was bringing back the sprint outs a bit towards the final 2 games, and I didn't love that. They ran them like 17 times the first 6 weeks of the year, and I didn't love that. And it's not just the idea, but they would run them on 2nd and 9, and so that would kind of put themselves in a guaranteed 3rd and 4 at best, or 3rd and 5. And so teams to run that on 3rd and 3 to pick up 4, move the sticks. All right, I get that, but Canada would never use it on 3rd down. He would use it on 1st and 2nd down. Kind of the same thing towards the end of the season. But I think pocket presence, movement, awareness, things Pickett got better at, especially keeping his eyes downfield as he scrambled. He was scrambling to throw, not scrambling to run, but an area to work on next year. All right. Oh, I just lost the chat here, and I might have lost some of the questions. Let me scroll back up. Let's see. Mike Odessa with some very nice comments about our coverage, so I appreciate that. And also says, if I find the comment here, this may be a little blasphemous because I'm a huge Danny Smith fan, but is it maybe time to move on from him? Kick coverage really below the line and minimal splash plays. Again, could this be the end? Oh, Mike, I wish you got to ask that question to start the stream here. I mean, I think about retirement with Danny Smith. I know he's a football lifer, says he has no other hobbies, and he probably coach, as long as he can, but you have to consider that. I don't know where he's at contractually. So, yeah, I think the kick coverage was really poor throughout the year, and special teams is not at its best. It had its moments, but could have been better. It was probably a below average unit just in totality. So I understand the thought there. I'm just going to kind of wait and see what happens.
And my thought on it is, and something we talk about every year during the summer is, well, don't forget about the Miles Boykins and the Benny Snells, because the Steelers usually like to keep those kind of players because of the special teams value that those guys bring to the table. That's the Tyler Matakaviches a couple of years ago, those kind of things there. And you're paying those guys, you're not paying those guys minimum salaries on top of it there. Seemed like every week I was writing up or talking about it on the podcast. Man, is this the week we get that key special teams play, that key forced fumble, that key return? It never materialized. I mean, you had to return against the Patriots, right? The long return
against the Bucks by Sims.
Against the Bucks, yeah. And even that one, he almost fumbled the football, I think. They it's the third phase, and it's important for a reason here. And even this year, was it because of Chris Boswell's groin? And you just kind of look at the stuff with Presley Harvin, how inconsistent. It's just been underwhelming, Alex. And I know Alex is a big Danny Smith fan. How much of it is coaching? That's a great question. Where's even the block punts at?
Sure.
One of those this year and all. I mean, they were close a couple times, but you never saw any of that. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was a change there, whether it be either Danny Smith retirement or some new blood there.
Yeah, no, as much as I'm a fan of Danny Smith, I think the unit certainly can be criticized, and I did so routinely. I thought the kick coverage was poor even before the Colts game, where it was really bad, and there were signs of it cracking ahead of time. Maybe they should add a dedicated special teams assistant. Pittsburgh, the only team that has one technically dedicated special teams coordinator, and that's Smith. Now, of course, other coaches help, like Blaine Stewart, like I think Denzel Martin, and probably others, but maybe there's a consideration there not to have Smith kind of be the sole guy, but we'll have to wait and see. Couple more super chats here. One again from Ryan Ripple. $2 super chat says, Dave is the GOAT. What's your favorite Star War? That's the question.
I'm a goat. I'm about as old as a goat, right? I guess it'd be New Hope, Ryan. I mean, remember, Ryan, I'm 54 years old. So when that came out, I don't know, what was I, 7, 8, something like that. And I mean, that was the thing. You just blown away. And, obviously that one was the original one. And look, we never called, I just started learning it was New Hope not too long ago. We never called it New Hope and all. It just Star Wars to us, and then it was Empire Strikes Back, and then it was Return of the Jedi there. So, it would probably be the original one, which would be Star Wars, New Hope, I guess.
All right, there you go. GSBZ Jonathan, $2 super chat. What's the biggest positional need on the team? That's a tough one. It's probably tougher to answer that now than it was 2 months ago. Trenches is still the focus. I'd probably say defensive line, given the uncertainty there. Of course, you have Hayward, but beyond that, it's a lot of question marks. Ogunjobi, a free agent. Wormley, torn ACL, free agent. Loudermilk, Leal, young guys. What are their roles, their fits? Tyson Alualu almost certainly will retire. Montravius Adams, what is his? Is he a starter? Is he a backup? So it's kind of a catch-all, and there's some uncertainty there that could change, but I'll say D-line.
Look, man, especially if you don't get at this point, if you don't get Larry Ogunjobi re-signed come March, man. As Alex just hit on, I mean, Wormley's an unrestricted free agent on top of that. So not only do you have to get him re-signed, but he's going to have to go through the rehab process and all like that. Tyson Alualu, that's probably it for him.
Mm-hmm.
If he doesn't retire, they shouldn't re-sign him at this point. Who is Isaiah Loudermilk? I think we kind of know now he's kind of more of a backup than anything. DeMarvin Leal, we're still really trying. I mean, he's done some nice things, but we're still trying to figure out if he can be kind of an every down type guy. Montravius Adams is at best a backup, I think. You obviously got a prime player still in Cameron Hayward there. But what else do you have on that defensive line there? So I really think at this point, from where we sit here right now, once again, we'll see what happens with Larry Ogunjobi. Man, I really think you got to think hard and heavy about spending that first round draft pick on a defensive lineman if there's one there, let's say 17, that fits what you're looking for, and obviously falls down that far.
Right, and that fits in line with what Andy Weidel's philosophy is to build inside out. What they did in Baltimore, what they did in Philadelphia, and probably the approach in Pittsburgh. So many super chats here. Thank you guys so much. Very generous here on this first day of the Pittsburgh Steelers offseason. One from Jeff Bendowski. I probably said that incorrectly, but Jeff says, how much do I have to donate to the super chat to get Devin Bush jettisoned? $5 is just fine the way that you have it. I think Todd had asked as well. Is this it for Devin Bush? I think you're going to get your wish here, guys. And that's really indicative of just what's happened the last 2 weeks, playing 10 defensive snaps against the Browns and Ravens combined. Was not even slated to really play in that Ravens game until Miles Jack got hurt. Dave, you said it perfectly earlier today on Twitter. Devin Bush cannot play in AFC North ball. You can't do that. You can't play in Pittsburgh.
Exactly right. And, the writing's been on the wall with this. Now, in Devin's defense, to some degree, I mean, it was we saw him do some things that we've kind of been wanting to see him do from a physicality standpoint and taking on blocks a little bit more, but it hasn't been enough. It hasn't been nearly enough. Go back to the original concerns that I had when Devin Bush was coming out. Probably one of the all-time best podcast episodes we've ever had that's been draft related was, I think we spent 45 minutes to an hour, Alex and I discussing Devin Bush after each study, I don't know, 3, 4 games, whatever it was way back then and all. And one of my biggest concerns about him, coming out was, where is the playmaking at? You could see the sideline to sideline ability and the athleticism with Devin Bush, but where is the playmaking? Where was the plays behind the line of scrimmage? And I'm not talking about blitz stuff, because they would do some stuff with him that would allow him to be kind of a free runner on some blitzes. And of course, he got home a couple of times on that. But where's the playmaking been with Devin Bush at the NFL level? So I think it's time. And Alex and I talked earlier today, man. Even if you were to get Devin Bush back on a 1-year veteran minimum contract for veteran benefit contract for the minimum, you're re-signing him with the notion that he would be a backup, and most really all backup inside linebackers on the Steelers must play special teams.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know about, I'll tell you what, Devin Bush is not a core special teams player. So even if you did re-sign him for the minimum, to me, you're probably just biding your time, hoping that there's not an injury to one of your starters, and you end up just cutting them, by the week one, started of week one of the season there. So if those are the boxes that you got to start checking off and all like that, just let him walk and go somewhere else. There's probably another team out there that's going to be willing to sign him to a 1 or 2 year deal for a little bit more than minimal. And the Steelers, that'll be too rich for the Steelers' blood when it comes to him, I think.
I guess when Harbaugh gets back in the NFL, he'll just pick up Devin Bush, right? I mean, that makes a lot of sense, I think. So Who knows what will happen there. But Devin Bush will not be a Steeler next year. I'm pretty confident in saying that. Robert Spillane probably gets re-signed. We'll see about Marcus Allen. Mark Robinson, of course, returning, but no to Devin Bush. One last call out. 103 people here in the chat. Really appreciate that. Just please hit that like button. It would really mean a lot to Dave and myself as we try to get as many Steelers fans in the chat as possible. $20 super chat from the 1LC7 says, keep up the good work, guys. First, Canada has to go. Feel he's holding the offense back with vanilla play calls. Disgruntled clown would be nice in rotation with Watt and Highsmith. If numbers work, of course, let's go Steelers. So I believe that's referring to Jadeveon Clowney being part of the rotation. He's more of a hand-down guy. I would be shocked. Yeah, a lot of reasons. I would be
stunned if Jadeveon Clowney is a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Stunned.
Yeah, I don't think it's gone well in Cleveland. It has not gone well in Cleveland. I don't think Pittsburgh's going to want to absorb that. With Canada, we'll see. I think Dave and I felt today really could go either way. We're both slightly leaning towards Canada staying over going, conflicting reports and thoughts and feelings. So I said earlier, I think we'll get our answer by Friday. Typically in Pittsburgh, when coordinators go or parted ways with, not renewed, whatever you want to call it, it's about 4 or 5 days after the season ends. So I think by Friday afternoon, evening, we should probably have our answer.
Yeah, it's so hard to read in between the lines about maybe what Mike Tomlin, did or didn't commit to, during his press conference today. It sounds like it's dependent on what side of the bread you have buttered with your narrative going into today when it comes to Matt Canada. You have Ian Rappaport talking about how he feels that the way Mike Tomlin said things today kind of has him leaning towards Matt Canada coming back. Then you have a couple of beat writers with the Steelers on the other side saying the way Mike Tomlin said what he said today means obviously that Matt Canada probably not coming back. So I just hope that we find out by the end of the week one way or the other, and it would not surprise me either way. I'm probably 51% thinking that they might bring Canada back, and I haven't had a good read on whether they will or won't since about week 13 of the season, I guess.
Yeah, we shall see. I mean, generally, Pittsburgh moves slower than other teams. The Titans just fired their whole offensive staff essentially today. But you want to got to fire a guy, get somebody hired in place for the Senior Bowl as you kind of get ready for all those things, the Shrine Bowl. And so I imagine, you're going to move with relative swiftness on a decision on Matt Canada. $5 super chat from Austin, who says, thoughts on Darnell Wright, the right tackle out of Tennessee. Chooks is not going to be eating up more cap space that he's not, says Chuck's is going to be eating up more cap space than he's worth. I don't know much about Wright. I know he's a big guy overall. I'm not the draft expert to start. I'm kind of just about diving into this, so I really don't have a lot of thoughts for you right now, Austin, on Darnell Wright.
Yeah, look, we don't even start getting into the. Jonathan Hightower's been doing a lot of his kind of early stuff with the really throughout the season. He's been writing about players to watch and all like that. But because our full-time job is to cover the Steelers, we don't really get to touch. I mean, I watch college football every Saturday during the season and all, and I know a little enough about a lot of guys to be dangerous, but nothing in. It's not like I've cracked open large amounts of tape yet either. And we don't get to do that until right now. Now we do obviously have we got 5 people coming out to Vegas for the East-West Shrine game. Alex, I think you and 3 others are going to the Senior Bowl this year. This is the time of the year when we start ramping that stuff up. So and we've learned over the years, and we preach to our own people, you don't talk about a guy that you haven't watched tape on. So until we were able to watch a little bit of tape on some of these guys, it's we're just throwing darts, and we're not going to go off of what other people write.
Yeah, we're playing catch up, and until then, I really don't have a lot of commentary. I know he's got size, and that's really all I can tell you about Darnell Wright right now. But check back in a couple of weeks. Go through some of these earlier non-super chats as quickly as we can. Matt Bell says, "Hi, Dave and Alex. Do you think we should bring back Chris Wormley and DeMonte Casey next year? Wormley, I'd like to see how that ACL is doing. Wait until the summer and kind of see where he's at in his rehab. And then Casey, that'll be interesting because, you probably we're going to try to bring back Terrell Edmonds. Will Casey want to come back knowing he's already blocked and will be a sub-package player at best? I'd look to bring him back. I don't know if he'll want to come back if he knows Edmonds is in front of him.
I certainly would try to bring Casey back, without a doubt. He might feel like he wants to start somewhere, and that's certainly understandable. But I would give it the old college try when it comes to him. And Wormley, I think it comes down to rehab with him and price. I don't think you've got to get in a hurry with him unless he's willing to sign a minimum contract right now. But as fresh as that injury was with him, what was it, week 14 was
Baltimore,
it? Yeah. I mean, he's gonna even if he does really really well with his rehab and all like that. He's gonna be pushing it to be ready for the start of the regular season. So there's not going to be a flurry, a rush to go out and for a team to go out and sign Chris Wormley during unrestricted free agency. You might get into June and July and him still be unsigned. I'm willing to bet if he had his way, he would re-sign with the Steelers, but they're not going to break the bank with him either, and they're going to make sure he's well along in his recovery. So yeah, I would not mind him back if the price is right and as long as that rehab is going well for him.
Sure. Had it not been for the injury, I think he'd have been kind of a no-brainer re-sign for a pretty cheap amount overall, something reasonable, economical, but the injury certainly throws a monkey wrench into that. 105039 says, hope you cover Larry O. Interested to see what your initial thoughts are on him coming back. Very hard body of work to judge this year. Yeah, we've talked about him some. We'll continue to talk about him, the guy that I'm probably the least certain of in terms of stays or goes. I think he'll go. I mean, he certainly had moments. He certainly, had made an impact as a pass rusher at times, getting penetration, gap shooting, that kind of thing. But he was just inconsistent. His get-off was really up and down. His run defense was hot and cold. Just kind of that up and down player overall. And do you want to pay really big money for a guy that's getting a bit older? I don't think so.
Man, and that toe, I mean, he's on that injury report the last, 5 weeks or so, 4 or 5 weeks of the season with that toe. And it makes you wonder how much, did that toe impact his play a little bit there on top of it. Now, look, when he was good, man. I mean, but there were kind of peaks and valleys with him. And at his age, with kind of the injury history that he's sort of developing now, and he's probably what you would call a free agent mercenary, on top of it at this point. I mean, if the price was right on him, I would consider re-signing him back. But I've got a feeling he's going to dip that injured toe into into free agency come March 15th. And auction, his services off to the highest bidder, if you will, and thus, from where I sit right now, I think I'll be a bit surprised if Larry Ogunjobi's back. But if he is back once again, I'm not so sure I want it at 8 million a season there, and he's probably thinking, well, I should get that maybe a little bit more there. So it'll be interesting to see how it works out. I'm willing to bet that right now, from where I sit, that he won't be.
Yeah, he wants to make up on that big, what was it, 3 years, $40 million deal with Chicago that fell through because of the injury he had last year in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Oscar Monge says, "Hey Alex, do you think the fans can follow previous precedent on draft selections, blue collar man, pre-draft visits, schools, etc., since Colbert is gone, or are past patterns scrapped?" That is a great question, Oscar. It's going to be one of the biggest of the offseason that won't be super obvious to watch, but something in my head a lot. Tomlin's still here, Colbert gone, Khan promoted, was with Colbert since 01. Andy Weidel comes in. There's going to be changes. There's going to be a different approach. How much changes? How much can you predict? Dave, our Blues Clues game will be a little bit tougher this year.
Well, I tell you what, that I tell you what won't changes the process of us playing Eagle Eye with the photos and the videos and trying to find out who's there. And it will be a bit of a learning, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go off of what we've done in the past until I have reason not to. And maybe this year is that year there. But with Weidel and obviously Khan, wondering, does Khan go to more than just 12 or 13 primary colleges, or will we see Weidel more out on the circuit? Just certain things to track. So I mean, I tell you what, we're going to track it, and we'll see how this first year. It's impossible to rubber stamp it and say this is exactly the way they're going to do it, just the way the previous, however long we've been doing this for now, years are. But it will be fun. Tracking the product. Look, there are some things though with the measurable aspect. Every year Alex does the what they look for. I think a lot of that's going to probably remain part of the clues and all like that, if you will. But I mean, we'll see. It's going to be a fun though process.
Yeah, it will be. Colbert was such a lifer. He loved pro days. I mean, this dude went to every pro day that he could. And we'll see what Weidel does, what Khan does. I imagine Khan will want to do it just to kind of really get a good feel for things. It's been the model of this team. I'm pulling up one article now, and it is just a collection of stories and, bits and pieces here and there. But article I wrote last year when they hired Andy Weidel, the big book of Andy Weidel that focuses on his mentality, his upbringing. He's a Pittsburgh guy, Western PA guy. His first NFL job was as an intern with the Pittsburgh Steelers in the late 90s, left right before Colbert got hired. And so I'm going to try to lean on that, but it will be a process for us to watch this thing unfold. Garrett says, "Thanks for all the hard work, Dave and Alex. You guys continue to kill it." Thank you, Garrett. Let's see. Next question comes from our friend John Pennington, and should mention 135 in the chat, so thank you guys so much. Sean says, "Hello, Dave and Alex. What players do you think the Steelers should bring back, and who should be let go?" I think we've talked about that some. I'm not going to go through the whole list of names. I'm still thinking about some of those things and considerations, but Cam Sutton you'd want back. Terrell Edmonds you'd want back. Where are you at on Gentry? You bringing Gentry back? I think we're maybe a little different on Zach Gentry.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like you almost have to be honest with you, because if not, you're going to have to go into the draft, spend another fifth round draft pick on a blocking type tight end. So I just wish both those guys, or really all three of them. I mean, Connor Hayward is what he is. He's never going to be a premier end of the line blocker. I just wish both Freiermuth and Zach Gentry were better blockers than what they are. I think we've seen kind of the ceiling on those guys. Gentry you can target a little bit in the passing game, and those two are like frickin' frack anyway at this point, and you almost feel guilty kind of splitting those two guys up at this point. So, I mean, if the price is right, and I would imagine it will be. I don't think people are going to be falling all over themselves to sign a Zach Gentry, although Jesse James got him a pretty decent contract, I think. Didn't he during was it first or second trip through free agency that he had there? That we'll see. It would not surprise me if he's back. But Alex, Cameron Sutton, Edmonds if the price is right. We talked about KZ. Boykin ought to be cheap.
Yep.
I'd try to get him back because of the special teams play. Who am I missing
Spillane.
here?
I'm good with bringing Spillane back.
Yeah, if the price is right with Spillane, bring him back. A lot of the other guys that we have, Wormley, if you can get him at a good price, because you're going to be losing so much off that defensive line, it is. So it would be nice to have kind of a cheaper, backup, experienced backup in him. I'm reading through the other names here.
Any Snow football? Is he going to come back? Special teams?
If you got him
Cheap.
for minimum,
Yeah.
I wouldn't do anything more than that. Just, NFL minimum with him. And on top of that, I'd make sure there was another undrafted free agent running back that plays special teams. Jesse Davis might be one, Alex. We didn't get to see him play
Good.
any, and
Good.
that's a
Yeah.
good thing there. But you know what? There's a conversation to be had there, Alex, because his tape at guards night day difference than it is as tackle. If I'm bringing him back, I'm bringing him back as a guard, which I assume he was this year, and knock on wood we didn't see him. I'm not gonna fall all over myself trying to pay him big money to come back, but if I could get him on a veteran benefit contract, I'd bring Jesse Davis back to camp at least.
Yeah, you can. It doesn't hurt, but I'm good with just letting him go.
He's a better guard. His tape was much different.
Yeah. Is he going to be just a guard? Can he play center? He kind of has, I think. Maybe he played center.
If he could be your swing guard, man, what's wrong with that?
Yeah, but typically those interior guys got to play all three. You don't have too many just pure, like the way Hassenauer could theoretically play both guard and center. Maybe you could get away with it, but it's not ideal.
Well, what I'm saying is I'm not falling all over myself to pay him big money, but if I could get him cheap, I would certainly bring him in there to push the pile, during camp.
Trent Scott a free agent?
Yeah, he is, but he can walk.
Bring Trent Scott. He's Pat Myers' guy. Fix offensive line.
I don't know. As biased as you are against Jesse Davis, that's where I am on Trent Scott. I think.
Fair enough.
They did try to play him. Man, he ended up logging. What did he log in snaps this year?
30,
60? Was it even
Scott?
that high?
I'd have to look. I feel like 60 is maybe a bit high. It might have been like 35. I don't know. I think decent amount.
I don't know. I know Clayton just had the updated article today.
Okay.
Where was it on there? I'll find him real quick.
As you do that, and I'm not endorsing this 100%, but one name that I just kind of saw that I thought would make sense to return to Pittsburgh. How about Chris Hubbard? How about Mother Hubbard coming back?
I think it's past 32. Let's see. No, that's 32 total snaps. 31 total offensive snaps.
Okay, so I was about in line with my guess.
Right. They'd use him as that extra end of the line, goal line, quasi tight end, if you will.
And one snap at right tackle this year. You got one for a core four there. Let's see. Thomas says, Dave and Alex, love the work you put in all year long. Cannot wait for the first mock draft next week. That'll be our first player profile. We already have. I don't know when my first actual mock will come out. Probably not for a little bit, but the first draft profile, hopefully for Monday. Which three positions would you like to see the Steelers address with the first three picks? Again, kind of talked about this loosely. D-line, potentially still O-line.
Edge.
It depends a lot on free agency that comes before the draft, who they re-sign, who they don't, who they pick up in free agency. They're going to make moves there. So it's really hard to map that out, still pretty far out in the calendar.
Yeah, this far, from where we sit now, and obviously this changes once you get into free agency. But man, once again, I think they really should address defensive line in this one. They have finally have got to address the outside linebacker position with a young player, and even if they intend on signing Alex Highsmith to a to a contract extension this offseason, I'm tired of all the Jameer Jones and the Malik Reeds and the who was the one that
Taco
went to
Charlton, Derek
Taco
Tuska,
Derek Tusk.
Ryan Anderson.
Yeah, enough. Spend a second or a third round draft pick on a guy that can come in and rush the passer and be part of that rotation. Hopefully, by midway through the season here, because we saw what happened when this team had a guy go down. In there, and they need 3 quality edge rushers on this team.
Or potentially just make the Marvin Leal really a de facto outside linebacker, and that might be a way to
have
do
him
that.
drop weight. Yeah, do it.
Yeah. Leal I'm still mixed on, but I think he's not, and I don't want to belabor the point too much. I want to get the questions, but he's not a defensive lineman.
Why didn't anybody? I know. Why didn't anybody? I mean, if we were there today, that would have been a question I would ask. What is the plan with Marvin Leal? Are you going to make him an outside linebacker, ask him to drop weight, or do you intend on making him a 3-eye or 3-tech, 4-eye tech or something along those lines?
And I think the answer is clear. I think he's an outside linebacker, more of a stand on his feet edge type of guy that can be a 3-tech on third downs, obvious pass situation. That's kind of how he was used this year, essentially, once Watt went down. So that would also be a way to give yourself some depth there on the edge. Steelers outside linebackers, they don't drop much. It's under 10%, not like it used to be when they're doing a third of the time. So that would be, I think, actually a way to do that without spending capital on the position in the draft.
I mean, you can still do that and still spend a 4th or 5th round.
Yeah, but not a second round or third round. It becomes less of an issue. There's some debate to be had about that, but I think it's an option. Mark Miller, in the way of too early draft pick questions, there are several corner options in the 10 to 15 range. Is that the early favorite for the 17th pick? There's really no favorite this far out, Mark. Besides Edmonds in Buffalo, is there a free agent inside linebacker out there? David Long in Tennessee, I think's going to hit. That's your guy, right, Dave?
That's the guy I thought they should have drafted instead of Devin Bush. I haven't really spent a lot of time looking at it just yet. I obviously will over the course of the next couple of weeks. I mean, I suppose that's one, and then Edmonds is. The thing about Edmonds in Buffalo, man, is he doesn't fit what they look for normally as far as body type. But he's a stallion, man. I mean, he is Planet Theory kind of build, kind of that 6'3", 6'4" type guy. They don't normally get him that big, Yeah,
but usually because those guys don't even exist. I mean, how many guys of that size are even out there?
And that's going to be part of the process of how married are the Steelers to the old way. The old way of measurable doing business and stuff like that.
Well, I think he's a Tomlin, like he's pedigree, he's bloodlines, he's athletic, he's young, he's going to be 25. Like I think he checks all the boxes.
Okay. And, I mean, other than just being taller than what they normally look for,
Yeah, the things against him are he'll be expensive. He won't. I don't know how expensive, but he'll be more than Miles Jack cost last year, I'm pretty sure. He's not had a great career. It's kind of maybe been a little disappointing from the stuff I heard from Bills Nation. Plus, Pittsburgh's been down this road before. Let's try to find another inside linebacker, and maybe you should go D-line first. And so there's a thought about capital investment focusing inside out, and that would not really be the approach to that. So, but it'll be talked about, and I think that's reasonable to do that.
And as far as the cornerback question, I look, from where I sit right now, I'll be surprised if they take a cornerback in the first round.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I'd be less surprised than you, but I'm not really in a mindset of what I'll be surprised and not surprised by. It's usually dependent off of what their visits look like and their pro day searches look like, and that's kind of what tells me what direction they are going. Scrolling back up here, about 15 minutes left, so be sure to get your questions in. We'll do this till about 7:45. Started a bit earlier, going to wrap up a bit earlier as well. Let me find a question here from somebody. Let's see, ask a question about Cliff Kingsbury. I don't count on that. Just getting fired by Arizona. What's the biggest area of growth this year? I think that's just a general statement. Run game, offensive line, taking care of the football. Those were all the major strides this offense made the back half of the year. Let's see, Brian Tolini. Do you see the fact of Deontay catching 86 passes with 0 touchdowns as a red flag about Canada's offense and not just a weird stat? I think it's probably more weird stat than it is an indictment on Canada. Yeah, there's some things you can talk about. I think Johnson was used poorly, especially the first 6 weeks of the season. But he had his chances this year in the Bills game, a couple of games this year. Colts game, I think he should have caught touchdowns and did not.
Yeah, there was a couple. He a couple of chances that he had, and then obviously another 2 yards yesterday, and he would have had one there. I think for a good part of first part of the season, look, yards after the catch. This team's got to get better yards after the catch. We actually saw a few of those the last couple of weeks, I think, overall. But and I wrote about this, I don't know, 3/4 of the way through the season or whatnot. I mean, Deontay Johnson's not going to have an opportunity, a lot of yak when you're running a bunch of curl routes or comeback routes with him. And at the time they weren't, barely using them on slants or any type of deep balls. And even the deep balls, a good number of the deep balls this past season, really, how many were really on target that he had a real legitimate chance at? So I'm with Alex. I think it was just one of those quirky type statistical anomalies that happen, and you could get into week 1 of next season. He has 3 touchdowns in one, or 2 touchdowns in one game,
Sure. Yeah. And I know they were trying to get him his touchdown yesterday. I mean, they threw 2 slants and both were batted down. It felt like there was a force field preventing Deontay from scoring this year. Should note the record he broke of James Wilder, who caught 85 passes in 1984 without a touchdown, went the next year, caught 53 passes and no touchdowns. So if you want some history there, Wilder did not have any more success the following season, but that's all, of course, just noise. But we love the weird stats at Steelers Depot. Good question here from White Mamba 24XE. Does the Steelers number 33 pick from the Bears live up to 32 because the Dolphins forfeited their draft pick because of tampering? Does that mean the Steelers have 2 first-round picks? It will, in essence, White Mamba, become the 32nd pick of the draft. It is not a first-round pick, so it will not carry the 5th-year option that first-round picks do. So it will be the 32nd selection, but it is still a second-round pick.
Right. It's still going to be termed a second-round pick, the first pick in the second round. And as Alex stated, it does not come with a 5th-year option or anything like that. I mean, it'll be in all technicality, it will be the 32nd overall selection, but it's if you want to boil it down, it's really the 33rd overall selection. It's just that there's a forfeited pick in between there. So you just don't get the perks that come along with the 32nd pick, like the 5th-year option and all.
Right. Fred Cam, what are the chances we go receiver with the Bears pick? It's so hard to be that specific about it. Can you rule it out? No. It depends on the board. It depends on... Listen, after day 1 ends, assuming Pittsburgh doesn't trade up, they're going to get a lot of trade calls. First team picking for round 2 and that Thursday to Friday. So, could they trade down? I think this team probably will be more likely to trade down than Kevin Colbert ever was. They may not actually pick 32nd or 33rd overall. It may be a trade involved at some point. Let's see. Next question comes from Jake Collins. Any chance Dan Moore slides to left guard and competes with Dotson if we end up selecting a left tackle at 17? Your thoughts on that, Dave?
Say it again.
Any chance Dan Moore slides to left guard and competes with Dotson if we end up selecting a left tackle at 17?
I would be shocked. I'd be stunned, floored. I don't see it.
I mean, if they take a left tackle at 17 and it's kind of a slam dunk starter, maybe you have that conversation, but that's a transition that's heavier and more difficult than people think. A tackle going to guard. I know he's a good run blocker, and maybe there's something there, but maybe he just becomes your really solid swing tackle. That, to me, makes more sense in trying to make him a guard. Couple more questions here before Dave and I wrap things out. Infinity2Z3R0. Hi, Alex and Dave. Here's a fun thought experiment. If Pittsburgh played the 2022 schedule in reverse, what would the record be? It's crazy, but I think they win 3 more games: Patriots, Jets, and Dolphins. Good question. We could talk about that all day and reverse engineer this thing. When does Pickett end up playing? As you're kind of referencing some of the injuries that Miami's had now. All I'll say is this, and this isn't really answering your question. I'm just mad about the Jets
Just
game.
beat the Jets.
Yeah, just beat the Jets. That's the one game. Like, I don't like to play the whole they should have won this game and all that, but that's the game they should have won, and that's the one that really just burns me up. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't really answer your question. I don't know what the record would be. There's so many variables at play, but it's an interesting question that I wish I could give the time towards. Jared, after 12 or so full games of tape on Kenny Pickett, what would you say is his best physical playing trait and an intangible trait that gives you hope? The best physical trait, accuracy. I think overall he's a pretty highly accurate quarterback for being a rookie. The intangible trait is that leadership, some of those chip on his shoulder, game-winning drives against the Raiders and Ravens. That was, kind of knew he was wired that way, but really good to see that in the NFL.
Well, look, what did the Steelers say right after they picked him? The accuracy. You got to have an accurate quarterback, and he seems to be that. He has he's very at no point, and this goes back from the very first snap that he took, even in the preseason. Yeah, he seems very, 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 very poised. Okay. Mm-hmm. He's obviously got level of mobility to him. I think that became prevalent throughout as the season wore on. And just one other thing. I mean, the last couple of games we have seen that out of out of structure kind of plays made by him. So the things that I think we need to continue to see, or we hope to see him develop more in moving on into next season, is getting the football pushed down the field, because you are not going to win in the NFL with a adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat under 6. Mm-hmm. You're just not. You got to be able to throw the football down the field. He's thrown it down, down the middle of the field a little bit, down the sideline a little bit. Can he really get into situations where he uncorks a few of them and gets those complete? Red zone. We got to see him become I think a more productive in the red zone when he throws, and just some of the pocket presence stuff. I think at times he feels some stuff and kind of gets out of pockets that maybe he should have stepped up in. But I'm a believer that first around 20 games of playing time, you really start getting a good idea of what you have and don't have at that point. So I'm thinking around week 6, week 7, we should have a pretty good idea of what Kenny Pickett is and isn't. But I mean, he's unflappable. And he does have accuracy. He seems to understand concepts and what he sees, I think, across from him, and just more experience now. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, encouraged by all of that for sure. Just time for a couple more comments and questions. Jeremiah, happy the Steelers beat the Browns, even though they did not make the playoffs. Lizard72, some special teams talk, and a good point. Christian Kuntz is probably in line for some competition this year. He has quite a few bad snaps saved by Harvard. I think you're right. I don't track, the stats to a T, but just watching the tape, I'm with you, Lizard. I think, he had a tough time this year. So I think that's a good point there. Probably some competition in for Christian Kuntz later this offseason. Let's see, a couple more. Todd, Devin Bush probably done in Pittsburgh. Why did they let go of Buggs? Buggs was a mess mentally from just getting into a stance standpoint. I think maybe the release humbled him, and he's doing a good job in Detroit. So kudos to Isaiah Buggs. Do we think Canada's staying? Dave and I both leaning towards him staying, but it really could go either way right now. Check back by the end of the week. Mike Adesso, I don't know if any criticism is allowed, but Mark Robinson sure looked like a rookie yesterday. Yeah, there's going to be ebbs and flows to every rookie, and Robinson has a skill set that works well, but it is limited right now, and you felt some of the downsides of him in space and reading and reacting and those types of things.
Yeah, hopefully, he will, with him having some playing time under his belt, and he's a converted running back, and only had the one college year at linebacker there, so he's going to have to learn the position. If he learns a position, and you might have something there, because he can move from point A to point B. He's not afraid of contact. We knew that all the way back to the preseason there. So, let's see what happens over the summer here. And I would think he's going to get every opportunity to be able to play some more snaps next year.
Yeah, I definitely will. Excited to watch him in training camp. Is there more to Connor Hayward than we initially thought? Has his ceiling gotten higher? That's from John Horvat. Yeah, I think it was a good rookie year for Connor. He certainly progressed. His role expanded. Now, as Canada leaves, a new OC's brought in. I thought Canada's offense kind of fit Hayward well with some of the boot action and split flow type stuff. So if a different OC comes in, that may hurt him. But yeah, I think Hayward had a good rookie year. Connor V, thoughts on Steven Sims' season? Does Calvin Austin automatically replace him next year? Austin will have to prove it, have to earn the job. Sims was a return guy, jet sweep kind of guy. Didn't do a whole lot in the pass game. Probably be around. Is he restricted, Steven Sims? What's his status, Dave?
He is restricted.
Okay. Original round tender on him. 7th round pick, I think he was.
Probably, yeah. That would make sense.
Is Gunner gonna get cut? Gunner's gonna get cut, I'm guessing. I don't know what the money
either
on
way
that.
with him.
Yeah, he never really had a role once he lost his kick return.
Right. I mean, yeah, and you did sign him to be that guy.
Yeah, I mean, he did some of the jet sweep type stuff. Anyway, couple more thoughts and questions. How does the offense fix their red zone fringe issues? Good question. It's going to probably require a deeper study. I don't have a great answer for you right now there, Rory, but it is an important question. Let's see what else we have. If we have anything else. Derek Watt gone. Could he get re-signed for super cheap? I mean, wouldn't rule that out.
Yeah, I mean, but you think he wants to play for that? Yeah.
Another guy that probably hopes Canada stays because it kind of carved a role in that offense.
I wouldn't knock myself out over it because I don't know. Maybe you could do a deal similar to what Edmonds had this last go around, but I'd be real careful there.
Why hasn't Kendrick Green been cut yet? If he hasn't played a single snap, he'll be on the. I assume we'll be on the summer roster, the camp roster, but will he actually make it to week 1 next year? It doesn't look good.
You've kept him this long. You'll keep him all the way through probably most of the summer there, and then cut him right before the season starts there. He was the only player on the roster that didn't even dress for a game this year. So
really,
yeah, he was the only one that was on the roster for all 17 games that never saw the active list.
He was the starting center day 1 last year.
I never put the pads on this year.
Good stat of the weird, Dave. Very good stat of the weird. I like that one. Brad Smith, Jack Campbell from Iowa would be a nice addition in the draft. I've mentioned him a bit. I got to watch him more, but I think that's a good name to suggest. And a very Iowa theme there. Brad Smith, the former Hawkeye receiver and played with the Jets, talking about Jack Campbell. I assume that's not the same person, but made jog my memory there. All right, that's probably going to wrap things up. Let me just try to see if I have any other really pressing questions here. Randy Wagner says, thank you for the stream tonight. Pay Brian Flores, give him a yacht. That's from Mark Tobin. We'll see if he goes to Cleveland or anywhere else. And that seems to be just about it. So I know you got to go, Dave. I'm going to go as well. You guys can check out this stream archive version on Steelers Depot in a little bit. Appreciate the fantastic support for this first off-season stream, the super chats, the number of people here in the audience. That was fantastic. So certainly appreciate you guys and appreciate you, Dave, as well, being with us.
And you do a great job running these. You always have. And thanks for everybody who showed up. Peace and love to everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
All right. Thank you, guys. We'll be back in 2 Mondays from now, and we'll talk to you soon.